It is the night of October 30th, 1944, and the American submarine USS Salmon is seconds away from mortal danger. Moments earlier, she has fired 4 torpedoes at a damaged Japanese oil tanker, a valuable and tempting target, but the attack has instantly betrayed her position. The tankers for escorts react at once, turning aggressively toward the firing point, racing in to hunt down the unseen attacker. With no time to hesitate, Salmon's crew initiates a crash dive. Every man aboard knowing exactly what is coming next, a brutal counterattack that will drive their submarine to the very edge of destruction. USS Salmon was the lead boat of her class of 6 submarines, commissioned in the late 1930s, displacing roughly 1,500 tons and armed with 4 torpedo tubes forward and 4 aft. With an impressive operational range of 14,000 nautical miles, she could prowl far from friendly ports, while her test depth of 250 feet gave her a reasonable margin of safety when evading enemy escorts. By October 1944, Salmon was on her 11th war patrol under the command of Commander Harley Kuhlman. The previous 10 patrols had resulted in only 4 confirmed sinkings, and both captain and crew were keen to improve that record. Alongside her Wolfpack partners Trigger and Silversides, Salmon was assigned to patrol waters east of the Ryukyu Islands, a vital shipping corridor connecting Japan to its rapidly shrinking southern empire. For weeks, the patrol yielded nothing, frustration mounting as enemy traffic remained elusive. But everything changed as the Battle of Leyte Gulf erupted to the south. The Wolfpack shifted position to support operations there, and on October 26th, Trigger detected the hybrid battleship carrier's eyes and Hyuga returning north. Though the pursuit ultimately failed, it pushed the submarines dangerously close to Japan itself, and it was here, in the early hours of October 30th, that Salmon and Trigger picked up a fast-moving tanker on radar. The target was identified as Takane Maru, and her speed made the chase long and exhausting. It took most of the day before Trigger achieved a firing position, launching a spread of torpedoes that crippled the tanker's stern and left her dead in the water. Without Trigger's intervention, Salmon might never have closed the distance. But at 5:40 p.m., the damaged tanker came into view some 24,000 yards south of Salmon. Despite 4 escorts actively patrolling the area, Commander Nyman ordered an attack. Salmon initially closed the distance on the surface, using the fading light of sunset as cover. But at 6:23 p.m., with the tanker still 8,000 yards away, Nyman ordered a dive. Now submerged, Salmon crept forward on electric motors at painfully slow speed, the diesels shut down to maintain stealth. After 90 tense minutes, Salmon reached a firing position roughly 3,000 yards from the tanker. Normally a closer approach would be preferred, but with multiple escorts nearby, Nyman chose caution. After carefully checking his solution, he ordered 4 torpedoes fired from the bow. Moments after the last torpedo left the tube, Nyman ordered a turn to set up a stern shot, but before the maneuver could be completed, 2 escorts sharply altered course towards Salmon, homing in on the unmistakable noise of the torpedo launch. At 8:12 p.m., as 2 torpedoes struck, Takane Maru ordered a hard turn to port and a crash dive, plunging Salmon downward as fast as gravity would allow. The submarine passed her 250-foot test depth, with the sound of enemy propellers growing louder overhead, finally leveling out briefly at 312 feet before the depth charge attack began. One escort after another passed directly overhead, dropping patterns of 6 to 8 charges at a time, nearly 30 explosions in total. Each detonation slammed into the hull, throwing men from their feet and shaking the boat violently from end to end. Nyman later recalled that the conning tower vibrated so fiercely he believed the submarine might tear itself apart. When the attack finally ceased, damage reports painted a grim picture. Multiple compartments were flooding, including both engine rooms and the control room itself. With water pouring in through damaged periscopes, fuel tank 7 had ruptured, spilling oil into the sea and allowing heavier seawater to flood in. While the stern planes were jammed in the dive position and the power steering was disabled. Worst of all, the depth gauge showed Salmon still descending. Already far beyond safe limits, the submarine was sinking uncontrollably. Naman immediately ordered emergency speed on the electric motors and maximum upangle on the bow planes. The boat finally bottomed out near 400 feet before slowly clawing its way upward. Wanting time for damage control, Nyman leveled off at 300 feet and reduced power. But the flooding continued, and Salmon began sinking again. Another attempt failed. The submarine plunged past 500 feet before Nyman ordered a ballast tank blown, shooting the boat upward to 150 feet. Once again, he tried to stabilize her, and once again, Salmon sank, this time plunging to a terrifying depth of over 600 feet at the stern, far beyond her theoretical crush depth. Miraculously, the hull held, but the batteries were nearly dead and flooding worsened by the second. With no alternatives left, Nyman made the decision to blow all remaining ballast tanks and surface, prepared to fight or die on the surface. At 8:30 p.m., just 17 minutes after the initial crash dive, Salmon erupted from the sea, listing heavily to starboard decks awash. To the crew's astonishment, the Japanese escorts were clustered nearly 7,000 yards away. Distracted by the oil slick left behind from Salmon's ruptured fuel tank, in the darkness, they failed to notice the submarine immediately, buying precious time. Damage control teams worked furiously, correcting the list, stopping the flooding, and restoring one engine. By 9:30 p.m., Salmon's deck guns were manned, steering restored, and radio messages sent to Trigger and Silversides. Eventually, the Japanese spotted her, but hesitated to close in, firing only occasional long-range shots. With damaged gun sights and limited ammunition, Salmon returned fire sparingly. Hours later, one escort finally approached, and under moonlight the two exchanged ineffective fire before Salmon slipped into a rain squall. Suddenly reversing course, Salmon burst out of the rain directly at the escort, passing at point-blank range while unleashing devastating fire from her deck gun and anti-aircraft weapons, shredding the enemy's superstructure and killing most of the exposed crew. The crippled escort fell silent as Salmon sped away into the night, dodging sporadic fire from distant ships, unable to dive and still badly damaged. Salmon escaped with assistance from other submarines and air cover, reaching Saipan on November 3rd and later Pearl Harbor for inspection. There, the extent of her damage stunned naval engineers. Hull deformation, cracked fittings, and pressure damage testified to her extraordinary ordeal. Of the 110 documented cases of U.S. submarines surviving severe damage during World War II, USS Salmon stands at the very top. Her survival, one of the most remarkable underwater endurance stories of the war.